Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 129, featuring the top 5 first times. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse, and I am the host of the TrekRanks podcast. Tonight, we're going back to the beginning and the start of whatever we end up talking about. It's going to be the start of whatever these topics are. It's our top 5 first times, which I think is going to be a super fun, broad topic that can literally go anywhere. And to do a topic like top 5 first times, we figured we should get 2 first-time guests on tonight, and that's what we have. 2 guests that we've been interacting with on Twitter for a while. So first up, coming to us from the UK sector, it is Matt Price. Welcome, Matt. Are you there?
Hello. Happy to be here.
Glad to hear it. And our second guest is Advocate Kimberly Lawler, hailing us from the Texas corridor. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
I love it. I heard your Trek profile, so I know you're a lawyer, and your name is Lawler, so that seems to be, that's just a good fit. I like that.
It works. So,
Kimberly and Matt, for our first-time guests, we'd like to get a quick Trek origin story, just to hear your kind of backstory, how you got into Trek, and just your Trek history. So, Kimberly, like I just said, I heard you on Trek profile, so I know you're not a completist, and you love your TNG, so give everyone a quick snapshot of your fandom.
Yeah, so I probably started watching Star Trek with my dad when I was a kid. He was a big original series guy, and so I knew the movies, and we would watch, when they came on TV. And then when The Next Generation started, that became my show. And so we used to have debates all the time about Kirk versus Picard, and I was just a huge Picard fan, and that became my show. And I started reading all the novels, fan fiction, and then kept watching, through Deep Space Nine and Voyager, but I kind of fell off from Voyager when I was going to college and was out of fandom for a little while. And then I started picking back up the novels. Netflix came back, so I watched all of Voyager, discovered I really loved that one too. Of course, I had still been into all the movies, and then I found Trek Twitter. And so that was another way to get back involved in the fandom. And so I still write. My fan fiction is Picard Crusher, because that's always been my one true pairing. And otherwise, I just enjoy watching whenever I can. But I am a mom of many children, all boys, and I just do not have the time to really commit to being a completist. So I kind of had to let that go. But I love Star Trek and love talking about it, and really excited to be here.
So you can just stumble on episodes, though, and find stuff you've never seen before. So that's super cool. So yeah. And I think at some point you will do that with Enterprise. You'll start hitting a few, and next thing you know, you'll love Enterprise just as much.
Oh, I know. And that's the thing. Enterprise was on when I was in law school, and I definitely had no time to watch it. But every time I watch it, I'm like, wow, I really like this one too. So I feel like I have the general knowledge from reading all the reviews and reading all the novels and stuff too. But yeah. So yeah, no, I really love it. And podcasting, of course, listening to podcasts has been one of the greatest ways to get re-involved in it too.
And Trek Twitter is the best. So Matt, how about you? Tell us about your Trek backstory.
It came about 13 years ago, 2009.
Wow, I'm already blown away. Keep going.
So it actually wasn't straight away with the 2009 film. It was, one of the few highlights of my time at secondary school was the fact that 2 years there was a sci-fi club, and the teacher decided one week to do Star Trek. And that is basically how I got introduced to it. It was actually, I was going to say what the name was, but I'm actually going to keep it secret because it's part of my top 5.
So have you seen it all?
It's taken some effort, but yes, I've seen every episode of every series so far.
Okay, and so Kimberly, your favorite is TNG
and Voyager.
And Voyager, okay. And Matt, if you had to pick one today, what would be your favorite series?
Deep Space Nine.
Okay, there we go. I love it. That gives us a good snapshot of your guys' backstory and what we can expect on our top 5 first times. I love saying top 5 first times. Okay, let's get into this. Here's our Trek Ranks recalibration.
What are you recalibrating?
Everything. It's a sweeping, a recalibration of all systems.
As regular listeners will know by now, general order number 1 of the Trek Ranks charter is that we love Trek, and we love to rank Trek via some deep dive topics just to get the conversation started. And remember, it's not about the ranks. That's just our excuse to talk about Star Trek.
But what is that Vulcan motto? Infinite diversity.
In infinite combinations.
And what is diversity? A celebration of differences.
And as to Poll and Dr. Phlox just said, Trek Ranks is basically just a big old celebration of differences. There are no wrong answers at Trek Ranks. We love it all, from TOS to TNG, straight through Enterprise and the Kelvin timeline, and now Discovery and Short Treks and Star Trek Picard and Lower Decks and Star Trek Prodigy as well. It's all fair game here on the Trek Ranks podcast.
Blank alert. Blank alert.
And a reminder that this episode of Trek Ranks is current through 825 episodes of Star Trek, which currently translates to the first complete half season of Star Trek Prodigy and the halfway point of Star Trek Discovery's 4th season. And one final reminder, we use episodes as a shorthand term, but the 13 films are always in play as well.
I boosted power to the communications bandwidth.
And we appreciate that, Mr. Kim. Where you can find Trek Ranks on Subspace at TrekRanks.com. You can contact me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise Extra. And you can also call and leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. That's 609-512-5527. Okay, Kimberly and Matt, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you on Subspace, a.k.a. Trek Twitter. Kimberly.
So you can find me on Twitter. I'm at KallieND3. That's KALLIEND3.
And Matt, how about you?
Matt Price 30.
Okay, follow up there for some good Trek content. And tonight we are skipping our diagnostic cycle because the only thing we need to know about tonight's topic is that we're picking a bunch of first times. And that could be so much. An introduction, an event, a starting point, anything. So instead of all that, let's jump straight into our Prime Directives and see how everyone narrowed down their list.
But what you're proposing is exactly the kind of tampering the Prime Directive prohibits.
Okay, so Kimberly, we're going to start with you. How did you define your Prime Directive and finalize your picks?
So when I started picking, I thought I could do like the first time a character appeared or the first time a race appeared, an alien species. But then I thought, well, that could be kind of repetitive. So what I wanted to do was mix it up a little bit. So there may be repetition in what I do, but I really wanted to do maybe the first time a certain production choice was made, the first time a character or a ship did something significant, or the first time we, the viewers, see a character do something, even though in universe they may have done it before. So all of my picks will be a little bit different.
Okay, I love that. That is a great way to look at it. That's going to be similar to mine. Matt, how about you? How did you break it down?
Well, my topic is actually quite unusual. It's actually my top 5 first times revisiting Trek episodes. I know it sounds strange, but
are you kidding? I love the sound of that. Keep going.
So with context, I should probably just explain. Before I left uni, I went to uni in the West Midlands of the UK for a few years. I finished in 2017. But before then, I just watched stuff for entertainment value. I didn't look at it for anything else, and Trek was unfortunately part of that. But then one day, I went and saw Wonder Woman in cinema, and that film changed my life. It actually changed my life. It changed how I perceive popular culture, and since then I've actually revisited Trek episodes and found myself either thinking, okay, that's even better than I thought it was, or I'm straight up loving the episode, having previously disliked it.
That is fascinating. I can't wait to hear this list. I'm liking that topic because I'm thinking of, man, if I looked at it that way, what are the episodes that when you saw it a second time the impact it made on you. That's kind of what you're saying, right? A little bit?
Yeah. So it's even gone into effect with Star Trek. And Star Trek Beyond is my favourite of all the Trek films, simply because of the themes that it hides beneath its script and its characters.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's so great.
So underrated. People just missed that one. They just missed it so deep, and it's so layered in TOS. Okay, I can talk about Beyond all day. Let's all right, so my Prime Directive, I came up with a long list, and then I realized that on my long list of topics that I'm looking at down the road, I had Arrivals on there, and I was thinking, I still want to maybe do Arrivals later. So a lot of my picks kind of felt like first times, like Arrivals. So I eliminated anything that could feel like it was an introduction or an arrival, which is kind of what you said, Kimberly. So I ended up focusing more on landmark moments and development moments, and like you said, maybe production choices are the first time we see something. So Kimberly, you and I are generally on the same page. I love that, Matt, that is out there, an awesome Prime Directive. So this is going to be cool. Let's get to it. First Cadet Catan, introduce us to the new order of things.
It'll be alphas like us that determine the future of this quadrant. That will be the new order of things.
Thank you, First Cadet Catan. As always, a quick reminder on how we're going to go through the order of things. First, everyone will start with their 5-word summary and a hashtag to tease their pick. Then we'll each reveal our first-time choices and the specific reasons we're highlighting it. And, of course, everyone will pick an episode to associate with that pick. And at the end, we'll ask everyone for a few secondary system selections for the picks that just missed our lists. And as always, if we have any duplicate picks, make sure you listen for the Defiant Torpedoes. Okay, Kimberly, we're going to start with you. What's your number 5 pick for your top 5 first times?
All right. My 5 words are, you'll like this, let's kill all the lawyers, hashtag quoting Shakespeare in defense of humanity. And the pick is Next Generation Season 1, Episode 1, Encounter at Farpoint. It's the first time that Picard quotes Shakespeare in Star Trek.
Oh my God, that's so good. So is that really the line, the lawyer line?
Yeah, you know what? I had always kind of remembered, I remember from Hyde and Q, he quotes Hamlet when he's going back and forth with Q in the office, but I had to double check myself to make sure it really was the first time. And then I'm like, no, that's right. He actually quotes it in the courtroom and during the trial and Encounter at Farpoint. And he says, I recognize this. It's a scene from Shakespeare where let's kill all the lawyers. And Q said, and that was done. And so that led to there being no justice. And that was the, of course, kangaroo court that they found themselves in.
Silence! Continuing these proceedings, I must caution you that legal trickery is not permitted. This is a court of fact.
We humans know our past, even when we're ashamed of it. I recognize this court system as the one that agreed with that line from Shakespeare. Kill all the lawyers.
Which was done.
Leading to the rule, guilty until proven innocent.
Of course. Bringing the innocent to trial would be unfair.
I love the fact that, of course, Shakespeare was always in Star Trek overall. Of course, it had been in original series like so much. But I just love that they had it in Next Gen from the very beginning, because it's so much what I associate with Picard. And for me, like, he was my introduction to Shakespeare. And I'm not an actor at all, but I have always loved reading Shakespeare and being into the plays. And it was because of Star Trek. So I think there was maybe it was the retrospective show that they did of Next Gen, like that Jonathan Frakes hosted at the end, but it was some sort of retrospective, and they looked back and they quoted the Hyde and Q scene in particular too, of what a piece of work is man. And so I just had that passage memorized, and it just, it plays through the rest of the show, all the movie titles, and then it just continues beyond that. And so I love it that the very first time that we got Shakespeare from Picard was in the first episode. Right
off the bat, and the fact that he's a Shakespearean actor that they brought into that role. And I mean, the Shakespeare was all over TOS. So with the episode titles and being quoted, I love this. Such a great specific pick and moment. Matt, any take on Encounter at Farpoint and Picard quoting Shakespeare? Have you read any Shakespeare? I've only read it in school. I've read a few.
I studied Shakespeare at secondary school, but as I said, I had very few high points, so it's probably been a bit blotted out. But I will say this: like Shakespeare in Star Trek it feels progressive. It's like, so for it to be quoted like in a progressive show like Star Trek is a good sign of how well it can hold up, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And yeah, I know it. Everything I know about Shakespeare, I learned in Star Trek. So that's just the truth. Okay, Matt, how about you? What's your number 5 pick?
So my number 5 pick for like first time revisiting Trek is the penultimate episode of Next Generation Season 6, and that is Timescape.
Okay, that's a great one to watch a second time.
So that's the one where Picard, Troy, Data, and LaForge discover, they end up traveling through frozen time pockets, if that's correct, and they come across the Enterprise seemingly on the verge of destruction, battling a Romulan cruiser, and as we go on to see, time has made it look like not what it seems.
Yeah, and it's when you rewatch that, you get a different perspective of all the things that are coming and how it impacts their decisions, knowing what you know that they don't know, but they're about to know. I love it. Kim, what's your take on Timescape? That's a classic.
Yeah, I love that episode. It's so great. I also feel like there's a classic Star Trek element to it, that in the beginning, they feel like they're stepping into a battle between the Romulans and the Enterprise, and so they have to save the ship. But it's really an accidental set of circumstances from a non-malevolent alien, and of course, it's got all the time pockets, and it's so much fun to watch, especially when Picard makes his little smiley face.
Yeah, that moment is like, it is just genuinely horrifying, the context when you think about it, as it is to see Picard's face of anguish, because, well, let's face it, we probably saw a warp core breach up close.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
So something else that does stand out for me to that is, like, I can't remember the episode in name itself, but early in the season there was like a chase. There's a chase happening to solve a puzzle between the Klingons, Cardassians, Romulans, and the Federation.
Yeah, that's the episode's The Chase. Yeah.
Oh, The Chase. So I was right.
Yeah, right.
And of course, at the end, the Romulans were the ones who took the lessons most than their fellow enemies. And so just in this one, as we see, the Romulans are actually not out to cause trouble. They're just as much in distress as everyone else. The situation looks terrifying, but all it is that the Romulans they're just there at the time. They say they're trying to stop the non-malevolence.
I like that. That's a nice little piece of headcanon, because that's right before this episode. Romulans at the end kind of acknowledge a little bit what's going on, and in this episode they're actually not being dicks, because normally they are. Okay, let's go to my round 5 pick. 5 words and a hashtag. Black and blue ×2 hashtag jumping and landing. And my pick is the first time we see a black alert and a blue alert, because those are the first ever non-red, non-yellow alerts when we see, alert status stuff portrayed like the traditional red and yellow alerts. So the first one, of course, my episode is the 37s from Voyager, when we get that amazing blue alert that shows up in the 37s when Voyager is landing on a planet. All of a sudden, I'll never forget that watching the first time. Blue alert! What is happening? They're landing. That was just a real game-changing moment for Star Trek, I think, when they landed the ship. And then my favorite part of our episode of Discovery right there is Context is for Kings. And when they introduced the black alert the first time, just really, really impactful, mysterious, eerie, dark. I just love that moment. So I thought, let's do it. Blue alerts and black alerts as my first time. Kimberly, what's your take on those? Have you seen Context is for Kings?
I haven't, but I certainly know the alert cue that you use all the time on here. And so it's very creepy and ominous. No, it is. It's chilling. And then to have the blue alert too is just great because we haven't seen a starship do that before. I mean, not the Enterprise or not Voyager. So like seeing that it actually can set down is pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah, it really, really was. Matt, what's your take on this?
I don't know if I could be of much help. I've actually not seen much of, I've not seen any Discovery episodes ever since I first watched them on their first like viewings. I know it's a bit. I've been meaning for months and years and months to try and have a Discovery rewatch, especially now that I've got I've actually bought the Blu-rays because they went off Netflix.
What about the blue alert? Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do now. It's like, give it a sec and everything comes flooding back.
All right, well, let's go to round 4. Kimberly, what's your number 4 pick?
All right, my number 4 pick. 5 words are leave the lizard babies behind, #need for speed. And it's Voyager Season 2, Episode 15, Threshold, the first time that humans make it to Warp 10 with Paris crossing the threshold.
Oh, man, Warp 10. Should have thought of that one. I love it. This is so great.
Yeah, I have in my mind the memory from where no one has gone before, where Geordi is saying, like, Captain, we're passing Warp 10. So I know that has happened before in the show, but this was the first time that humans really did it on their own. And it's so memorable for all like the technobabble and everything, with Neelix helping at the beginning, and they and have so much scientific enthusiasm for it. And then the whole episode just completely changes tone after makes it to Warp 10, and then it just kind of goes a little bit bonkers. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's wacky, and what happens to the lizard babies at the end? That's always been
it's a really interesting episode for tone, because like about 20-25 minutes in, you're like, oh, this is interesting. What is happening? What is going on? Matt, what's your take on Threshold?
I certainly don't think it's the worst Voyager episode.
I would agree with that for sure. For sure.
I think it's got a good idea. It does suffer a little in its execution, but I do not think it's that bad. It does have some really good ideas behind it.
Agreed. And incredible Emmy-winning makeup, which is awesome. Okay, Matt, how about you? What's your number 4 pick?
My number 4 pick, so like for revisiting Trek, is actually the very first Star Trek episode I ever watched. The Devil in the Dark from the original series.
Oh, my all-time favorite TOS episode. I love it.
This one just it stood out to me on the first watch. It's what got me into Trek. But the rewatch, when I was preparing episodes, because I was going through as much Trek as I could for what was the ultimate countdown at the time. Blimey, it's 4 years since I did that, and look at how much the Trek universe has changed already. But yeah, so Devil in the Dark holds a special place just because it's got a real mysterious vibe to it, and the themes about fearing and hating the unknown do hit you hard. You say you do understand what the miners tried to do at the end of the episode because they feared the unknown, but upon learning the truth behind the Vorta, why it was doing what it was doing, they came to understand it and realize it wasn't the enemy at all, and that it does resonate hard.
It's the classic, we're the monster, not.
Yeah.
Once you realize we're the ones killing all their eggs, and I love the Horta Bomb. Kim, what's your take on The Devil in the Dark?
Yeah, this is just absolutely a classic. I love it. It's such a perfect Star Trek idea of, like you just said, we're the monster. We're the ones that are actually causing the problem, and shifting your perspective, coming to understand another entity or being better, so that you can be more sympathetic and not have that first reaction of must kill it, is so it's just one of the reasons why I love Star Trek, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this one, from the first season of TOS, an all-time classic that set the tone for 55 years. Oh, and so my number 4 pick is similar in that regard. Here we go. 5 words and a hashtag. A ram among the sheep. Hashtag day 1 for the Klingons. And my episode is Errand of Mercy from TOS season 1. And it's the first day of filming for the Klingons in Star Trek history. And I'll tell you why in a second, why this is special to me. I'll give Larry Nemecek, the Star Trek historian and author of the TNG Companion, some credit on this. He did a story on his Trekland website a few years ago about the first ever day of filming for the Klingons on Errand of Mercy, which was January 27th, 1967, which was the exact day I was born. And that always stuck with me. And so when I was doing this first-time topic, I just thought, I'm going to pick that because it's really cool to me that something so iconic, the first time Klingons were ever on a set and filming an episode was the day I was born. It just feels like a nice, cool connection. And Errand of Mercy has been one of my favorite episodes my entire life. I absolutely love what it says and what they do in that is kind of setting the tone for Klingons throughout Star Trek. So, Kimberly, what's your take on that one?
Great pick. Introduction of the Klingons is certainly pivotal, right? I mean, there's we know all the classics, right? The Vulcans and the Borg and the Cardassian stuff, but and the Romulans, but the Klingons are so important to Star Trek overall. And for this to have been the first episode that they were introduced is really neat. You know, it's another one where you're trying to find ways to avoid conflict.
Right, and not understanding. Again, you come in thinking we'll show these Organians what's what. Oh, no, we're not going to show them what's what. They're going to embarrass us.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, what's your take on this one?
It is a really good episode. And something that failed to click with me for years was that the character in it, Core, would then go on to have those character appearances in Deep Space Nine.
Right.
I never clicked until years later.
I could see that. Well, the makeup changes, and if you're not like as embedded into it as some dorks like me are, I could see that if you're doing a watch through that you don't pick up on that. So that actually fits your list well as a first time revisit. I like that. Okay, let's go to the soup round. Kimberly, what's your number 3 pick?
Eat your soup, courtesy of a loyal establishment. Joanne True.
All right, my number 3 pick, 5 words. Would you like a tranquilizer? #training mission. And this is the first time that Saavik pilots the Enterprise out of space dock in The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Great 5 words.
Thank you. This is, Wrath of Khan kind of freaked me out as a kid. I was definitely more of a Voyage Home fan, but obviously it's iconic for so many reasons. But it is a little bit darker, right? So there's moments of levity at the beginning with Kirk doing his little tour around, seeing the cadets and all of his little asides to McCoy and Spock. And then they come on the bridge and Saavik gets her chance to pilot out the ship from SpaceX. Like, wow, it's the first time for everything. And I just laugh out loud at McCoy's line because he's so snarky and he's so funny. But you get the swelling score, and it's so dramatic, and it's really an awesome moment.
For everything, there is a first time, Lieutenant. Don't you agree, Admiral?
Mm-hmm. Aft thrusters, Mr. Sulu.
Aft thrusters.
Would you like a tranquilizer?
Ahead 1/4 impulse power.
Ahead 1/4 impulse power.
Really is a classic snarky McCoy, and it's from a movie with so many incredibly memorable things. Right. That's one of them. That's another one of them. It's like everyone knows this moment in this scene, and the way it's really the way McCoy and Kirk, or I should say DeForest Kelley and William Shatner play it. It's just so good, iconic. Matt, what's your take on the Wrath of Khan in this moment?
Great moment. So very good character. A bit disappointed she didn't get as much development as she did in the films after, but it is understandable. It's kind of a bit of a shame that Khan didn't physically see anyone on the Enterprise bridge in the film at all, because I think he could have had some really good moments with Saavik, because a few great one-liners.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. That's one of those things about Wrath of Khan that is really interesting looking back on it. But that's what, at least we got him and Kirk facing off in space seat, so we have that. But Yeah, it's always funny when that comes up, that they are just basically yelling at each other over the screen.
No, I agree. It makes it more like the submarine movie that it's supposed to be, right? The captain's like circling each other and hunting. And
Yeah, love it. Okay, Matt, how about you? What's your number 3 pick?
Number 3 pick for Revisiting Trek, the 4th episode of Deep Space Nine Season 7, Take Me Out to the Holosuite.
Okay.
Now, admittedly, when I first saw it, I was actually a bit of a low opinion of it. I saw it as a bit of fun, but nothing too major. But then I rewatched it as part of my Deep Space Nine full run through in 2018. Having seen the episodes prior, I realised that this episode was just what everyone needed. And I didn't just mean the characters. I meant the production crew and the cast. Everyone needed this episode because obviously only a few episodes prior, we'd seen the death of Jadzia.
Right.
The opener to season 7 did play a part in re-establishing these characters, but this episode took it just that little bit further. I mean, this episode has everything: fun montages, fun character moments. The fact that we even had Quark getting into the spirit by getting his bartenders to throw glasses down at him from the balcony so he could practice catching. That was adorable. And of course, you can't like think of Take Me Out to the Holosuite without thinking of Worf's Death to the Opposition.
I mean, it's an all-time classic episode. So many great one-liners. I'm curious, so how much did you know about baseball, or had you seen baseball when you saw this?
I knew nothing of baseball first time, even probably less second time, and I still don't know all that much.
I love it.
Blame the fact I'm from the UK. I don't say we tend to have cricket.
That's why I asked. Similarities, but different. Kim, what's your take on Take Me Out to the Holosuite?
Another great episode. I love that pick. Okay, similar to Wrath of Khan. There you go. They're kind of in the middle of a really intense season, and to get this moment of levity is a lot of fun, especially the Death to the Opposition line, but also the Scotch flavored gum.
There's so many. My favorite's when he says "to manufacture triumph," and they're just laughing at the Vulcans. So good, so good. Okay, I'm going to close out the soup round. I'm really excited to be able to pick this, but now I'm curious how much you guys, if you've even seen it, who knows? We're going to find out in a second. 5 words and a hashtag. Medusa navigates into our hearts. Hashtag hoot hoot. Hoot hoot. It is Zero from Star Trek Prodigy, the new first ever regular cast member as a Medusan. And Medusans are just cool. They have been since 1969. I love it. Zero is played by Angus Imrie. His portrayal is just absolutely fabulous. I don't know how this guy gets so much emotion into his voice acting. It's really, really impressive. And I love the place that this character takes in Trek as they're non-corporeal, non-gendered. It's a really huge, cool part of Star Trek history and lore, really important representation on a bunch of levels. And I love the role that they're playing in mentoring Dal as almost being like the Spock to Dal's Kirk and, being the catalyst for everyone escaping Tars Lamora. Hoot, hoot! I just love the goodwill and enthusiasm for this character. He gets hoot, hoot! And I chose Lost and Found, the first episode, because of the effective way that they just introduced the character. It was so cool. The first shot of it's like a glimpse. They're just in this very distance. You see them out of just the corner of Dow's eyes, in this misty, kind of spooky, and then they disappear. And I love that. I just love this character so, so much. So my first question to you both is, have you seen Star Trek Prodigy? Because it hasn't come up yet. So Kim, are you watching with your kids?
I have not yet. I've only watched one episode of it so far, and I actually really liked it a lot. And it definitely seems like it'll be good for the kids. So I probably will be watching them. And I've been reading the episode summaries and seeing some clips of it. So I like the character so far from what I've seen. I can't wax quite as enthusiastically just because I don't know the details. I'm so sorry.
I have a feeling you're going to love it with your kids. It has blown me away how good Prodigy is. Matt, how about you?
I can't really pass judgment because of, say, not been able to see Prodigy, but I will say that I have heard of what has been released so far, and I do think it is adorable, including one particular moment in a recent episode that everyone will know what I'm on about, even when I'm not saying what it is.
I don't know what it is. What is it? Give me a hint. Give me a clue.
Say the fact that one episode didn't have just Janeway as the hologram.
Oh,
various others.
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, the less we spoil that, the better. That episode had me I was in tears. I'm not gonna lie. So, and Kim, you're a fan of one of those characters in a big way, and I think you're going to be moved.
Yeah, I am excited. I'm excited to get that one. Yeah, I've only seen the screenshot, so I'm super excited to watch that one.
It's just cool that she's finally in it again. It's Beverly Crusher. That's what we're talking about. It was amazing.
Finally and long overdue.
Finally and long overdue. Yes, absolutely. I do indeed concur full-heartedly. Okay.
I just watched that the other day.
Okay. All right, let's go to round 2. Kimberly, what's your number 2 pick?
Okay, my number 2 pick, 5 words, all the specs and diagrams, #family matters. And it's TNG Season 4, Episode 2, Family. And it is the first time a TNG episode has no scene set on the bridge.
On the bridge, yes, that's so good. Oh, yeah. God, that's so good. And again, classic 5 words.
Thank you. It's a meaningful detail. Like that position choice is very meaningful because this really is the first time that we don't have a science fiction concept in the background. It is just focused on characters, and it's one of my top 5 Star Trek episodes. I absolutely love this one. We also get several first-time character introductions in this one. Worf's parents are so awesome. I really love watching them. We get to see Jack Crusher for the first time, even though he's in hologram form. And, of course, Picard's family.
Oh, Renee!
And Renee.
I always get emotional thinking about Renee.
I know. They were done wrong.
They were done very wrong.
And Rick Berman didn't want to do this episode, from what I understand, but this is the Michael Piller one where he's like, no, we're focusing more on character. And it's just brilliant. And I think that really helps cement the fact that TNG would continue to be completely episodic in many ways, but we could have some through lines with the characters. And not having a scene on the bridge really highlights that fact. This isn't going to be one about the ship so much as the characters.
Absolutely. And I've joked about this before because this is another game changer in Star Trek. And that's going to be, we're going to do top 5 game changers on episode 171. So that's like 40 episodes away, people, but we're going to do it because I spouted it off a few episodes ago. I said, we're just going to do it. It's going to be episode 171. I pulled it out of a hat. And so that's what we're doing. It's on my list. And this one's a game changer because the extension of Best of Both Worlds, and to have characters actually suffering effects of the things you've seen. It's just, that's the way television evolved at that time, and Star Trek was a big part of that.
Yeah.
It was huge.
I agree.
Matt, what's your take on Family, and another classic?
That scene with Picard and his brother in the mud, you could tell straight away that it had barely been mentioned all that much in the prior episodes or the episodes so far up to that point. The fact that such a stoic captain like Picard could break down really showcases what the Borg did to him.
Literally, you couldn't showcase it any better than what they did in that scene. So
yeah,
brilliant.
And to show that through the love of 2 brothers too that have always been at odds and finding some measure of reconciliation. I love it.
I mean, I've literally seen it 100 times, and if I'm not doing a distracted watch and I'm sitting there watching it, I will cry every time.
It's so powerful.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay, Matt, what's your number 2 pick?
My number 2 pick for revisiting Trek, Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 19, In the Pale Moonlight.
Ooh.
Wow.
And I'm going to make a confession. My first initial viewing of this episode, prior to my Deep Space Nine full watch through, was to say I wasn't initially all that keen.
Oh, why?
It struck me as
Too
just
dark?
like an episode where it was. I thought the biggest thing. I thought Sisko was being out of character, but then with my rewatch, I realized deep down that was the whole point. Because have you ever seen an episode where a Starfleet captain dedicated to his cause will go against his own morals like Sisko did?
I mean, this is the quintessential example of that for sure. For sure. Yeah, that's interesting. So so on your first time rewatch of it sunk in a little bit more, having all the entire context of Sisko and how the story ends. Yeah.
And it also cemented just why Garrick is one of my favorite supporting characters in the whole franchise.
Yep, for sure he is. Kimberly, delete that entire log. What's your take on this?
Oh my gosh, this episode is so intense, and the way that we get the whole story retold, Garrick's involvement, and the fact that he does not let Sisko get away with it at all. Like if he says, "Well, I didn't actually mean for you," and "Oh, yes, you did. You knew exactly what was likely to happen when you asked me to help." And the fact that he has to say, "Can I live with it?" Yeah, I can live with it, and that's chilling. That's a major turning point, like you said, for the character that we love and that isn't supposed to be morally compromised, and yet you can understand maybe why he did it while still thinking that it was wrong. It really sits with you for a long time afterwards.
It's a challenging one, but yeah, hard to. I have a hard time arguing with the ends. You know, the means are always debatable, but it's hard to argue with the ends.
And of course, there's that meme. There's that meme that often makes the rounds of like computer delete entire personal log, unable to apply, and it turns out he's broadcast the whole log to the whole station.
Okay, I've not seen that, so that's good. All right, let's go to my round 2 pick. All right, so my last pick was a Medusan from Prodigy, and my next pick connects to that one in ways that you'll never see coming, but because I'm picking it from something from the episode Is There in Truth No Beauty, which of course is the episode in which Medusans were originally introduced, but this pick has nothing to do with that. So just throwing that out there. Here we go. 5 words and a hashtag. Admit it, IDIC critics. Hashtag most revered of Vulcan symbols. And it's Is There in Truth No Beauty? And it is obviously Spock's groovy IDIC pendant and necklace and logo, which he portrays, which he wears in the episode for the first time. It's the triangle and the circle representative of Surrock's enlightenment at the top of Mount Seleia on Vulcan. And I love the IDIC. And so there's a little bit of controversy, which is my 5 words and a hashtag, admit it, IDIC critics, because, you know, the backstory on this is that this was a Gene Roddenberry idea to sell merchandise, to add this little pendant and necklace onto Spock so that he could sell it through his company, Lincoln Enterprises. I think it was them. Might have been another one at that time. But and so then the story goes that Shatner and Nimoy didn't appreciate that it was obviously written into the script as a late season 3 kind of Roddenberry thing. So, and that may be true, but at this point, that is, I mean, the IDIC is so legendary. It's such a cool shape. It's such a cool philosophy that permeates throughout Trek, and to have this kind of tangible thing, the infinite diversity and infinite combinations, and the way it obviously it played a big role in the Vulcan trilogy, which is huge for me. And I just love the IDIC. I love everything about it, not only the necklace, but just the philosophy of it and everything. So as Miranda says in this episode, the glory of creation is in its infinite diversity. And Spock says, and in the way our differences combine to create meaning and beauty. Awesome stuff. So Kimberly, what's your take on the IDIC?
Fantastic line. I love it. It is. Also, we're really finding a lot of foundational things for Star Trek here. I love the design. I love how it comes up throughout all of the series and is really this touchstone that symbolizes another aspect of like why we love Star Trek, because there's so many things out there that you can find meaning in, that you learn like not to judge, to rethink your preconceptions. And like you said, it also plays a role in the Vulcan trilogy. And so that I really like as well. Great choice.
Yeah, pretty cool. Matt, what's your take? Did you pick up on this when in your first watch or seen much of it? I mean, did you even know it was in this episode?
To be honest, like I say, I partly forgot this episode existed. All I can remember from it was that it featured Diana
Muldar, yeah.
Muldar. Dr. Pulaski.
So Dr. Pulaski. Yeah, of course. She's great in it. And it's actually an amazing episode. It's really kind of riveting. It's filled with really 60s style bonkers. But man, the Medusans are so I love the Medusans when they were first introduced here in the Idic. So this one kind of jumped out at me as a pick.
Great pick.
Okay. Let's go to round one and get our top first times. Kimberly, what's your number one?
Number one pick, 5 words. I'm making a house call. #footloose and fancy free. It is Voyager Season 3, Episode 9, Future's End, Part 2. It's the first time the Doctor can leave sickbay and the holodeck.
Oh, that's so cool.
It really changed things for the show going forward. We had seen him in a few different situations, but otherwise he was really limited. Once he could finally be free of his physical limitations and go anywhere, it opened up so many other storylines for him and was a pivotal moment in that show.
Love the 29th century tech, that mobile emitter that freed the Doctor. Such an awesome character. And this is a spectacular two-parter that you can watch a million times and never get tired of it.
It's so well done. It's so entertaining.
And now it's so funny to watch it now, thinking that the 90s stuff is so dated, but it was current when they were doing it. So that was current everything, and now it's like such a time capsule. Oh, it's so fascinating.
It's very 90s. It's true.
It's so 90s. Matt, what's your take on Future's End and the Doctor and his mobile emitter?
Future's End is one of my favourite Voyager 2-parters. It does have a lot of good things going for it. I do think, Henry Starling is a good villain. I do think Sarah Silverman is terrific.
She's wonderful.
And as someone who does really like the Doctor, he is, to see him finally getting the freedom to move was a really nice moment.
Are you all right?
I guess so.
Doctor.
I've been equipped with an autonomous, self-sustaining mobile hollow emitter. In short, I am footloose and fancy-free.
Footloose and fancy-free. Another great hashtag, or 5 words in a hashtag. All right, Matt, what's your number one first time?
It is another Voyager episode.
Cool.
It is another Voyager episode focusing on the Doctor. And if I'm correct, it's one that TrekRanks ranks very highly. It is Voyager Season 5, Latent Image.
Oh, yeah. Underrated classic.
Awesome.
It's in my top 5 all-time favorite Trek episodes.
I can see that.
And deservedly so. So it's just, I did like it at first. I'd say I just love how it went from going through humorous moments, including the Doctor trying to convince Naomi that his scanner was not entirely dangerous. It takes you through the ringer, it takes you through questions of whether a hologram is right to choose. It gives you some horrific memories that really resonate with you. And from a philosophical perspective, it really does leave you wondering. And of course, harsh as it is to sound, the shuttle pod carrying the Doctor, Krim, and the other crew member was doomed the moment it left space dock. And I always think back to Thanos' quote from the Avengers Infinity War trailer: "Dread it, run from it, destiny still arrives." And it did.
This episode literally has it all. So first of all, this is an awesome pick for your Prime Directive, because this is a great one to revisit and kind of take it all in the second time. but it's got this incredible mystery. It's got, once you kind of see it unravel, you see, some real intense scenes, kind of scary and almost grotesque at some level in terms of the attack on Harry, Kim, and Jital, I think her name was.
Yep, that's it, Jital. I could never remember her name.
And then it morphs into this incredible moral dilemma for the crew and the doctor and everybody involved with them and their friendship and the things that what's best. And there's no easy answers. And the ending is just so powerful. I remember when it first ended, I was like, really? That's the ending? Wow. I'm just gutted. You're just gutted at the end of that one. Janeway's trying to help him. Kim, what's your take on this one?
Oh, just a brilliant episode. I really love this. And like you said, it starts off with the ethical dilemma that causes this crisis for EMH. And you understand why the fact that it causes a crisis for him when he is just a hologram is really moving. The fact that he starts breaking down because of it. And you're really challenged as a viewer, but I think, Janeway is too, to say, how do I deal with this? And deleting the files makes the most sense in order for them to have the doctor continue to be functional. But I really like Seven's argument that it's not ethical. Human beings don't have that option. We have to learn to reconcile the hard things that we go through and move past them somehow. And so to end the episode with his friends there to support him through this process of going through all of his trauma and figuring out how to move beyond it. And, we were talking about Shakespeare earlier, this has Dante. And so it's another element of classicism or classicalism in Star Trek. And I absolutely love the reference. Wonderful episode. Great pick.
Excellent.
And of course, say one last bit is that obviously, the characters have their justification for doing it. Who enjoyed the moment when Seven argued that if the Doctor's personal development, is blocked up and covered to avoid a repeat of what happened, does that mean they'll do the same to her if something happens to her in the future? And of course, that's what gets them.
Yeah, the moral arguments are wonderful in this episode, and great Dante shout out. Kimberly, I would just say, everything I know about Dante, I also learned from Star Trek. So I am consistent in that regard. Okay, let's close it out with my number one pick. I'm covering a lot of ground with this first time pick, so maybe a little bit of a cheat, but my 5 words and a hashtag. Not just any old X hashtag, always the starting point in ship design. And my pick is NX, which basically means first time, the best of all the first times, as the prefix or the registry for the bulk of experimental and prototype starships in Starfleet. It's NX, a bunch of first-time ships. And so my little cheat is that by just picking NX, I get to talk about all my favorite NX ships instead of just one. So you've got the NX-01, which is one of my favorite ships of all time, pretty much second to the original Enterprise. You've got the Defiant NX-74205. I love that Deep Space Nine ship. The incredible NX Alpha and Beta from Enterprise's first flight. 2 amazing ships in an amazing episode. And, now in Prodigy, you've got the NX-76884, the USS Protostar. So many cool ones, but my episode pick is Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, because of the original first usage of the NX prototype, the classic NX-2000, the USS Excelsior, not one of my favorite ships, but I picked it anyways because it's the first NX, and the more they overthink the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain, as Scotty says. So a bunch of NX ships is my pick. Kim, what's your take on the NX?
Great choice. And I love that there was a creative choice that allowed you to bring in so many great ships that I love to talk about, especially the Defiant and the NX-01. And so wonderful pick. I like the Defiant probably best out of all the ones that are listed. But yes, going back to Search for Spock, that's awesome. Because I know the Excelsior is a great introduction.
It really is. They used it so well. It's so memorable. But just when, when after that, when it just started to appear so often, it's like, oh, the NX, it's just cool. Anytime NX shows up, it's something cool's about to happen. So
yeah,
I love that. Matt, what's your take on the NX ships?
It's hard to try and say without coming across as a bit cheeky. So it's like, I think it's as Scotty said in The Voyage Home. Why would you want that bucket of bolts?
Right.
It did suffer a little from being a bit of a butt monkey at times, but I think it's a good ship. It's justified why it became the Enterprise B.
It's funny. I always say that what they did in Star Trek 3, they just did it so well because they set it up so you don't like the Excelsior because they're trying to escape from it, and the captain's kind of pompous. And so in my mind, I never liked the Excelsior, and I think that had a lot to do with it. I mean, I don't love the design in contrast to other ships, but I think all of that had something to do with it because they set it up that way.
Yeah.
Especially for me, because I was, 16 when I saw that for the first time. So stupid Excelsior. Okay, let's go to secondary systems.
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
Kim, anything that just missed your list you want to rattle off?
My hardest cut for secondary systems was TNG Season 4, Episode 12, The Wounded, which is the first time the Cardassians appear.
That's on my list, but I had Bajorans and Cardassians.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's both of them. And
cool.
Is it? Or the Bajorans with Ensign Rowe?
Oh, yeah, because you're saying The Wounded. Right. Oh, sorry, I'm getting them totally conflated. I'm cutting that out. I love that pick. Cardassians. Yes. Go, Kim.
It's awesome. It's a great episode for O'Brien. It introduced, and it with the history with the war, it sets up a whole plot line that there was the Federation Cardassian War that, of course, blossoms into later episodes of Next Gen, but then the entire series for Deep Space Nine. And I love the Cardassians. I've said they're very Soviet-like in their culture. And so if you're fascinated by Cold War stories or something, the way that those cultures functioned, this is it. Like, this is where they start. And the treachery is there from the beginning, but it's a very different sort of treachery than the Romulans have, right? Because there's a little more intrigue to it. And the fact that Picard doesn't let Maxwell get away with doing the wrong thing, but he also doesn't let the Cardassians get away with what they were doing, makes it a good Picard episode as well. So that was... Even
though he knows they were right.
Yeah, exactly.
Or that Maxwell was right. Yeah, so good. I always add, it's incredible to me, I picked this on some topic in the previous Trek Ranks, the Cardassian design, for them to kind of be a one-off alien and get that level of design and for them to become the aliens they became in Star Trek lore, absolutely just incredible perfect storm that all came together. So good. I love this pick.
Thanks. Thank you. Another secondary systems that I had was Star Trek First Contact, the first time that Lily holds the phaser and she says, "It's my first ray gun."
Oh, that's perfect.
Maximum setting. If you'd fired this, you would have vaporized me.
It's my first ray gun.
That was my hashtag sounds Swedish.
Oh, God, that's really good. And she literally says, "It's my first ray gun." I love it.
Exactly. Thanks. And then the last secondary system one that I had was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's from Terra Prime. I think that's the first time Hoshi is in command. And is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. And she's amazing because I picked that too on the previous Trek Ranks. I think I picked that in my buzzer beaters. Yeah, my buzzer beaters.
She's so good. But I relate to her so much in that you can see how nervous she is, like standing up to the Admiral, but she has grown in confidence over the years. And Archer is right to have the confidence in her to do the right thing. And I love that moment. So her first time in command made my secondary systems too.
Spectacular choice. We love Hoshi. That is so good. Matt, how about you? Any other episodes you want to kind of go back to for your first time revisits?
Well, I mean, we'll say with regards to secondary systems, like I say, ones that did just avoid making this list was Star Trek Beyond was one that I did tout, but I figured keep it listed to the episodes. But an episode that just about missed out on this one. Honestly, In a Mirror Darkly.
Yeah.
Say, first time watching it, I got the theme straight away, and I thought it was really good. And then obviously watching Demons in Prime, part of me kept thinking, what if the Mirror Universe had its own John Frederick Paxton? What would he have done?
Oh man, that's one of those conundrums that you just go down the rabbit hole on. That's the classic ROM deconstruction of the Mirror Universe. Well, if he's bad, then he must be good, but he's extra bad or something.
Right.
I have given it some thought. I reckon he would have led resistance cell, long thought dead, and he would have thought to. So he would have stolen the Defiant and attempt to use it going around destroying ships. And whilst he is killed, he actually manages to destroy the Defiant at the same time, setting back the Terrans' hopes of using the Defiant's weapons to upgrade their own ships. That's my headcanon.
Okay, so I'm trying to follow this. So is he a good guy compared to his Prime character, or is he worse?
Yeah, definitely.
So he's a good guy. Okay, so yeah, see, Rom would appreciate this because he's none of it makes sense to Rom. Awesome. All right, I've got just a couple. My toughest cut was the first mind meld from Spock in Dagger of the Mind. Early TOS season 1. I love that moment when he mind melds with Dr. Van Gelder. And then I also had Tuvok as the first Vulcan, like fully Vulcan, not even regular, but just like the first real Vulcan we got a lot of detail on. I always love that.
He's the best. I love Tuvok.
He is literally the best. He is so underrated.
I agree.
I had Deep Space Nine, a space station instead of a ship for the first time as the core of a series. And then my special shout out to the master, Jeffrey Combs. I couldn't pick his first time appearance in Trek because that wasn't that great in Meridian. That character was so skeevy, and he was great, but not memorable. Nobody wants to see him again. But and it was the first time he was Weyu, and he did such a great job. They killed him that they were like, we got to bring this guy back. So let's make the Vortas clones so we can bring Jeffrey Combs back as
we can have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Super fun topic. 2 great guests. Bunch of good first-time deep cuts. I love this, but let's get into our regeneration cycle now and go to a recap of our picks.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, Kimberly, let's recap your top 5 first times.
Okay, my number 5 pick was Encounter at Farpoint, the first time Picard quotes Shakespeare. My number 4 pick was the first time humans crossed Warp 10 in the episode Threshold. My number 3 pick was The Wrath of Khan, the first time Saavik pilots the Enterprise out of space dock. My number 2 pick was Next Generation Family, the first time that an episode had no scene set on the bridge. And my number 1 pick was Voyager Future's End Part 2, the first time the EMH could leave sickbay and the holodeck thanks to the mobile emitter.
Fantastic, thorough list. I love it. So you had 2 from TNG and Voyager, and then 1 from TOS. Great list. Matt, how about you on your first time revisit list?
Yes, my revisit list was 5th was Timescape, featuring the frozen time pockets. Then 4th, Devil in the Dark from the original series. That was my first ever Trek episode, and an idea of, say, we're the monsters. 3rd is Deep Space Nine's Take Me Out to the Holosuite. A nice little fun, just a nice little fun story. Then getting serious with Deep Space Nine again. In the Pale Moonlight at number 2nd. Say no reason to really say why it's on the list.
Everyone knows.
Everyone knows. And then lastly, number 1, Latent Image from Voyager. As Kim said, Dante.
Perfection. So you had 2 from Deep Space Nine and 1 each from TOS, TNG, and Voyager. I love that Prime Directive. And my list, number 5, from Voyager, the 37s, the black and blue alerts from Voyager and Discovery. And my number 4 pick was from Errand of Mercy, the first shooting day of the Klingons in Star Trek history was the day I was born, from TOS. My super round pick was Zero, the Medusan, the first ever Medusan regular character from Prodigy's Lost and Found.
Hoot hoot!
You guys are going to love him when you get to know him. My number 2 pick was the Idic from Is There in Truth No Beauty, the debut of the Idic from TOS. And my number 1 pick, the NX label for all the different first-time prototype ships. And I chose the Search for Spock and the NX 2000, the Excelsior from TOS. So I had 3 from TOS, which is kind of funny, and 1 from Voyager and 1 from Prodigy. So that's quite a combination. No duplicates. I had a feeling we might not on a topic this broad.
I wasn't sure about that. I thought we might pick some of the same ones if we were picking like the first time.
It could have happened, like
was introduced, or
or like something like Warp 10 or Mind Melds. I could have seen that being a duplicate, but here we are. We have 15 different ways to look at it. And the only stat I really kept here was our breakdown of the series. So it's kind of compact. We had 1 from Prodigy, which is cool, and then the other 4 are all from the your first 4 series: TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. So we had 2 from Deep Space Nine, 3 from TNG, 4 from Voyager, and 5 from TOS. So pretty good cross-section of Trek covered on this great topic. But as always, we have once again been hit by a temporal distortion. So before we can depart, it's time to hear from you.
The temporal distortions are fracturing space-time throughout the ship. Cause?
Unknown.
We know the cause, Mr. Tuvok. It's all the amazing feedback that we continue to receive from our listeners here at TrekRanks. And this week's temporal distortion has sent us back to a variety of past episodes as the feedback's been coming in from every angle. So here are 3 quick lists from 3 different topics. First, from way back, we got in a list for our one-off romances way back on episode 29. That's years ago, from Nate Perkins, who's at Nate__Perkins. And he just listened, so he sent us an awesome list. Odo and Arissa from A Simple Investigation. I love them. Harry and Lindsay Ballard on Ashes to Ashes.
Oh, that's such a good one.
It is, because, as I like to say, they definitely banged. I love those 2 together. Bashir and Melora from episode 3. They try to keep it kind of ambiguous with Harry and Lindsay Ballard, but come on, people. I mean, it had to happen, I think.
Yeah. I think with Bashir too, a lot of he gets a lot of grief for his character in the first season, but I actually remember liking him a lot. Maybe I was too young to know I wasn't supposed to like him.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But... Yeah, no, he's on my list of like biggest changes or just evolutions, because man, he was first season was a little something, but Melora was second season, so that's lovely. And number 2 was Wesley and Robin Leffler from The Game. I love that. And then Harry and Tal from The Disease. He chose that's one of my underrated episodes. I love The Disease. And he had 3 honorable mentions I'm going to relay. The Doctor and Denara Pal are awesome. Quark and the team of Lang are fantastic. And then he had Hoshi on Ryza and Archer on Ryza with their relationship. So a bunch of great one-off romances. What a great topic that was. That was a long time ago. Okay, we also got a great list from Beverly Falls, our friend at Dr. BNC89. She sent us her Dax episodes. And number 5, the Wedding of the Century, hashtag red is your color. It's your cordially invited. Number 4, Kane, Kor, Koloth, and Curzon, hashtag promises kept, from Blood Oath, of course. Number 3, Field of Fire, the mind of a killer, hashtag coincidence or connection. Number 2, I love this, Trials and Tribulations, a love letter to Trek, hashtag 1,771,561. And her number 1, the Trill Rite of Closer, hashtag Past Life Facets, a fantastic Dax episode list from Beverly Falls, and one more pick. This one, a list of Ferengi episodes from episode 117 from our friend Ian at Rebooting Time. And I love this pick, so I'm relaying it quick. His number 2 pick was from Acquisition, Trip Tucker Sprinkles in Undies, a hashtag First Contact Capitalism, and that is, of course, a reference to the Lower Decks Trip Tucker Sprinkles. Fantastic. I love it. Awesome picks. Definitely good enough to clear ourselves from this week's temporal distortion. So as always, I want to thank everyone for all the great responses to the Trek Ranks podcast. Keep your list coming to me at Trek Ranks on Twitter so we can retweet them. But we also want to hear from you. So put together your own list of top 5 first times or a list from any of our past shows and give us a call at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. That's 609-512-LLAP, or you can just record your picks and send me a link. We can do it that way. So hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of Trek Ranks. And on the next episode of Trek Ranks, we are doing a long overdue topic. It was from Kimberly's first pick of today. I was going to say something, but I didn't. So the timing is perfect for this one. It'll serve as our preview episode for the 2nd season of Star Trek Picard that's coming up. It's our top 5 Q moments. I cannot wait to get to this one. So Kimberly and Matt, if you had to choose one Q moment in the 13 overall appearances in Star Trek, what would it be? Kimberly, and you can't choose Encounter at Farpoint and Kill All the Lawyers.
Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones.
So many.
But if I had to narrow it down, I think I love Deja Q the most out of all of his episodes, perhaps.
So good.
And so there's multiple great moments in that one. So I like Guinan stabbing him with a fork, the conversation with Data, Beverly, giving him the back rub, and you've
been a pain in our backside long enough.
Exactly, it's so much fun. And his interactions with Corbin.
Corbin Person. Yeah, that's right. Cute too. I love it.
Rather cute. Yeah, so that would be my favorite. I'd have to pick a moment probably from that episode because that's probably my top one for him.
What do I have to do to convince you people? Die. All right, Matt. How about you? Any Q moments you want to relay?
Ooh. No, I've got one. I'm just going to do it in a quote.
Okay.
You hit me. Picard never hit me. I'm not Picard.
Oh boy, that's a great moment and the rest of that quote is ominous. Yes, I know you're much easier to provoke. Q is so good. I cannot wait.
And I am really looking forward to Picard season 2.
Yeah,
and I think this is going to be even better.
I loved Picard season 1, but this is going to be a different tone. You can tell. So
absolutely, yeah. This is going to be a great topic for your next episode.
Yeah, it really is.
Some really wonderful moments.
Yeah, we're recording soon, and I'm already narrowing down my list. So super fun. Okay, so to wrap it up here, a huge thanks to Kimberly Lawler and Matt Price. It was awesome to have you guys both on the show.
I was wondering if you could show me how to access these subspace communications logs.
And we're going to do that right now, Mr. Neelix. So any final Trek subspace communications either one of you guys want to relay before we depart? Kimberly.
Go out with the Shakespeare quote. What a piece of work is man, how noble in reason, how infinite in faculties. In action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god.
I just want to finish right there. That was amazing.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was really a pleasure to be here.
So good. Matt, how about you, man?
I don't know how that's going to be topped, but so I'll just go with 5-card star. Sky's the limit.
I love it. That is perfect. Actually, with the last episode, did somebody do that already? This is crazy. I think that literally happened in the last episode. You've probably even heard it yet. So, amazing. Okay, I might cut that out. Anyway, thanks, you guys. Awesome job. Thanks, everyone, for listening and engaging with us here again on episode 129 of the Trek Ranks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
Mr. Paris? Prepare the ship for landing.
Captain, I think I should tell you I've never actually landed a starship before.
That's all right, Lieutenant. Neither have I. Bridge to engineering. We're going to land the ship, Miss Torres. Take the warp core offline, vent all plasma from the nacelles, and stand by to engage atmospheric thrusters.
Aye, Captain.
This is Lieutenant Tuvok to all decks. We are preparing to land the ship. Go to Blue Alert and report to Code Blue stations.
Plotted a descent course. How close do you want to land to the distress coordinates?
No closer than 2 kilometers.
Okay. Atmospheric controls at standby. Landing mechanisms online. Inertial dampers at maximum.
All decks report condition blue, Captain.
Put her down, Mr. Paris.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
Niners, let's hear some chatter.
Hey, batter, 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 batter. Hey, batter, 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 batter.
Death to the opposition. Hey, batter, swing, batter.